Good evening. Tonight, we journey to Savona, New York, where in 1993, a brutal crime shattered a small town. 4-year-old Derrick Roby was taken in an act so shocking, it defied belief, committed by a 13-year-old boy. What drove this chilling violence? Can a killer change? Join us as we trace the evidence, the investigation, and the enduring pain of a family. This is the murder of Derrick Roby. The murder of Derrick Roby, a true crime saga. In the tranquil village of Savona, New York, nestled in the rolling hills of Steuben County, the summer of 1993 unfolded with the familiar rhythms of small-town life. The air buzzed with the laughter of children, the crack of t-ball bats, and the hum of community gatherings at the local park. At the heart of this idyllic scene was 4-year-old Derrick Roby, a boy whose boundless energy and radiant smile earned him the nickname Little Firecracker from his devoted parents, Doreen and Dale. To them, Derrick was more than a son, he was a spark of joy, a whirlwind of curiosity who loved nothing more than chasing a baseball or sharing a giggle with his family. But on the morning of August 2nd, 1993, a seemingly innocuous decision would shatter this peaceful world, plunging Savona into a nightmare and etching a tragedy into the annals of American crime. This is the story of a monstrous act, a relentless investigation, and a community's enduring quest for justice. It's a tale of innocence stolen, a family's unending grief, and the haunting question that lingers to this day. What could drive a child to commit an act so evil it defies comprehension? A mother's trust. The sun rose gently over Savona that Monday, casting a golden glow on the quiet streets. In the Roby household, the morning was anything but calm. Doreen Roby was juggling the demands of her 2 young sons. Her infant, Dalton, was unusually fussy, his cries filling the small home. Meanwhile, Derrick, just shy of his 5th birthday, was brimming with excitement for the recreation program at the village park, a mere block away. The route was a familiar one, a straight shot down a dead-end street. No roads to cross, a path Derrick had walked countless times under his mother's watchful eye. Today, however, Doreen faced a dilemma. With Dalton's cries growing louder, she hesitated. Derrick, sensing her distraction, piped up with the confidence of a boy eager to prove himself. "It's okay, Mom," he said, his blue eyes sparkling. "I'll go by myself." "It's no problem." Doreen's heart tugged. The park was so close, the route so safe. After a moment's pause, she relented, packing his lunch bag with care, a sandwich, a banana, a pouch of red Kool-Aid. "He gave me a kiss and said, 'I love you, Mom,'" Doreen later recalled, her voice breaking with the weight of memory. "I said, 'I love you,' and he went hopping off the sidewalk, his little backpack bouncing." As Derrick's small figure vanished around the corner, a faint unease settled in Doreen's chest. It was the first time she'd let him go anywhere alone. She brushed it off as a mother's worry, unaware that this moment would mark the beginning of an unimaginable tragedy. Chapter 2. A Village Gripped by Fear. By midday, storm clouds rolled across the sky, and Doreen's unease morphed into a gnawing dread. "I had this awful feeling," she said, her words heavy with hindsight. "It started pouring, and I swear that was the moment he died. I think he was letting me know he was leaving." Unable to shake the panic, she raced to the park, her heart pounding. The news she received was a gut punch. Derrick had never arrived. Savona sprang into action with the urgency of a close-knit community. Neighbors dropped everything to join the search, their voices echoing through the streets as they called Derrick's name. Police officers and volunteers combed backyards, alleys, and the wooded areas near the park. As the hours dragged on, hope began to fray. Parents clutched their own children tighter, whispering prayers that this was all a misunderstanding. Late that afternoon, a searcher's scream pierced the air. In a small patch of woods, just yards from the park and a few hundred yards from the Roby home, Derrick's body was found. The scene was beyond comprehension. The 4-year-old had been strangled and savagely beaten with rocks. His lunch bag lay torn open, its contents desecrated, a banana smashed, red Kool-Aid poured into his wounds. A small stick had been used to sodomize him, and his sneakers were deliberately misplaced, one near his right hand, the other near his left. The killer had arranged the body with chilling precision, as if to taunt those who would find it. "It was a brutal, brutal killing," said Charles Wood, the lead investigator, his voice thick with disgust. "I've lost my boy," Dale Roby wept, collapsing into Doreen's arms. "He's gone." Savona reeled in shock. The once vibrant streets fell silent as parents locked their doors, keeping their children inside. The initial assumption was that the killer was a stranger, an adult predator who had slipped into their quiet village. "Our instinct was that it had to be some evil person from out of town," said John Tunney, the prosecuting attorney. The idea that a local could commit such an atrocity, let alone a child, was unthinkable. The hunt for a monster. Investigators descended on the crime scene, their faces grim as they cataloged the evidence. The details painted a picture of calculated cruelty. The killer had lured Derrick off the sidewalk into the woods, where he was strangled. The violence escalated with the use of 2 rocks, one large, one smaller, to batter the boy's small frame. The Kool-Aid, poured into the wounds, suggested a sadistic pleasure, while the stick and the posed body indicated a level of control that chilled even seasoned detectives. He didn't just kill Derrick, Tunney said. He chose to make it a spectacle of cruelty. The community mourned, placing a wooden cross at the site where Derrick was found, adorned with flowers and small toys. Police established a command center at the village hall, interviewing residents, chasing tips, and combing through every detail. The pressure was immense. Savona demanded answers, and the nation was watching, with media outlets like CBS's 48 Hours already circling the story. For days after the murder, an unexpected figure walked into the command center, 13-year-old Eric Smith. He was a familiar sight in Savona, his bright red hair and freckled face making him stand out as he pedaled his bike through town for hours on end. Eric lived across the village with his mother, Tammy, stepfather, Ted, and grandparents, Red and Edie Wilson. To his family, he was a loving, if troubled, boy who thrived on attention. He'd run in and give us hugs and kisses, Edie recalled. He loved playing the clown, making us laugh. But beneath the surface, Eric's life was fraught with pain. Relentlessly bullied at school for his appearance and speech impediments, he struggled with crippling self-esteem. "I'm stupid. I'm nobody," he'd tell his mother, his voice heavy with despair. As a toddler, he'd thrown violent tantrums, banging his head on the floor. He'd been held back in school, and by his teens, his isolation had deepened. He confided dark impulses to his stepfather, admitting, "I feel like I want to hurt somebody." When Eric offered to help at the command center, his demeanor was oddly upbeat. "I thought I could be useful," he said, a faint smile playing on his lips. Investigator John Hibbs listened as Eric claimed he hadn't seen Derrick that day. But something was off. Eric's excitement, his almost gleeful enjoyment of the attention, set off alarm bells. He was too happy to be there, Hibbs later said. It didn't feel right. The mask slips. The next day, investigators brought Eric back for further questioning. Under pressure, he abruptly changed his story, admitting he'd seen Derrick near the park, wearing a white t-shirt and carrying a lunch bag. He was right across from the open field, Eric said, placing himself perilously close to the crime scene. Hibbs felt a jolt. "It knocked me off my chair," he recalled. He was putting himself right on top of the murder site. Eric's details were unnervingly specific. When asked about the lunch bag, he described it as kind of cool, really. His composure began to crack, his voice trembled, and his fist clenched, vibrating with tension. "You think I killed him, don't you?" he blurted, his eyes darting between the investigators. The room fell silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Eric requested a break, and his father brought him a glass of red Kool-Aid. In a moment that sent chills through the room, Eric grabbed the glass and hurled it to the floor, the red liquid splattering across the tiles. "We all knew Derrick had red Kool-Aid poured over him," Hibbs said. That moment, it was like he was reliving something. Investigators began to suspect that Eric wasn't just a witness to trauma. He might be the source of it. The following day, police asked Eric to reenact his movements on his bike, hoping to pinpoint where he'd allegedly seen Derrick. A police video captured the scene, showing Eric pedaling calmly, even cheerfully, as he described the encounter. He was having a good time, Wood noted, disturbed by Eric's demeanor. But the reenactment revealed a critical flaw. From the distance Eric claimed to be, he couldn't have seen the details he described, like the lunch bag or Derrick's clothing. The discrepancy was glaring. Eric's family, meanwhile, sensed he was hiding something. "We thought maybe someone had threatened him," his grandfather Red said. "We never imagined he'd done it." 5 days after Derrick's death, as Savona gathered to bury the boy in his baseball uniform, Eric's family sat him down, pleading for the truth. The confrontation was agonizing. Eric's facade crumbled, and he collapsed into sobs. "I was there," he cried. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry." The confession was unthinkable. Eric had killed Derrick. He described luring the boy into the woods, strangling him, and battering him with rocks. He admitted to pouring the Kool-Aid into the wounds and using the stick, actions driven by a perverse need for control. "I don't know why I did it," he told his stepfather, his voice hollow. "I just saw this blonde kid, and I wanted to hurt him." The revelation stunned Savona. "It's another kid," Doreen whispered, her world fracturing further. Eric, barely a teenager, was arrested and charged with second-degree murder, a crime that, under New York law, could be tried in adult court due to its severity. The case sent shockwaves across the nation, with headlines branding Eric the freckle-faced killer. A courtroom in the spotlight. The trial of Eric Smith began in August 1994, transforming the Steuben County Courthouse into a media circus. Reporters from 48 Hours, The New York Times, and other outlets packed the galleries, drawn by the unprecedented nature of the case, a 13-year-old boy accused of a crime so heinous it defied belief. The central question loomed large. How could a child commit such an act, and what should justice look like? Prosecutor John Tunney, a father of 5, approached the case with a steely resolve. Eric chose to do something horrible, he told the jury in his opening statement. He didn't just kill Derrick. He reveled in it. Tunney presented a meticulously constructed case, leaning heavily on the physical evidence. Crime scene photos, shown to a hushed courtroom, revealed the brutality. Derrick's small body, battered beyond recognition, his sneakers eerily arranged, the Kool-Aid staining his wounds. Forensic experts testified that the rocks used in the attack were deliberately chosen from the forest floor, and the sticks used suggested a calculated act of violation. He could have stopped after strangling Derrick, Tunney argued, but he chose to make it a performance of cruelty. Tunney also introduced Eric's own words, recorded during his confession. "I wanted to hurt him," Eric had said, his voice devoid of emotion. The prosecutor painted a portrait of a boy who, far from being a victim of impulse, had acted with chilling intent. "He enjoyed it," Tunney said, the word landing like a blow. "He didn't want it to end." The defense, led by attorney Kevin Bradley, took a different tack, arguing that Eric was not a monster but a deeply troubled child. Bradley introduced the diagnosis of intermittent explosive disorder, a rare condition characterized by uncontrollable bursts of rage. Dr. Stephen Herman, a psychiatrist hired by the defense, testified that Eric's actions were the result of years of bullying and suppressed anger. "He felt like he was about to explode," Herman said. "The rage took over, and he lost control." Bradley pointed to Eric's history, his speech issues, his academic struggles, the relentless taunts at school as evidence of a boy pushed to the breaking point. The prosecution's expert, Dr. Michael Caldwell, countered that intermittent explosive disorder was exceptionally rare in children and unlikely to explain Eric's actions. "This wasn't a spontaneous outburst," Caldwell testified. "The sequence of events, luring, strangling, escalating with rocks, and then the Kool-Aid, shows planning and intent." Extensive medical tests, including brain scans and hormone analyses, found no physiological basis for Eric's behavior, further undermining the defense's case. The question of abuse surfaced due to the sexual nature of the crime. Eric's older sister, Stacy Hevner, testified that their stepfather, Ted Smith, had molested her, raising speculation about Eric's own experiences. But Eric consistently denied any abuse, and no evidence linked Ted or anyone else to harming him. "There are issues in any family," Tunney acknowledged, "but they don't regularly produce killers." Doreen and Dale Roby took the stand, their testimony a heartbreaking centerpiece of the trial. Doreen, clutching a photo of Derrick in his T-ball uniform, described her son as "my cute little firecracker," a boy who loved baseball and making people smile. But the judge, citing relevance, limited her ability to speak at length about Derrick's life, a decision that left her devastated. "It wasn't fair," she said later. "I wanted them to know who he was." After weeks of testimony, the jury faced a wrenching decision. Could a 13-year-old be held fully accountable for such a crime? After tense deliberations, they returned a unanimous verdict: guilty of second-degree murder. On November 7, 1994, Eric, now 14, was sentenced to 9 years to life, the maximum penalty for a juvenile in New York at the time. As he was led away in handcuffs, his parents, Tammy and Ted, wept, convinced their son was sick, not evil. The Robys, meanwhile, embraced, their tears mingling relief with unending grief. A family's endless sentence. For the Robys, the trial's end brought no closure. "They're serving a life sentence," Tunney said, his voice heavy with empathy. Under New York's parole system, Eric would be eligible for release every 2 years, forcing the Robys to relive their loss in a cycle of dread. "It's a nightmare," Doreen said. "Why do we have to beg to keep this killer behind bars?" Eric's first parole hearing came in 2002, when he was 22. The Robys, barred from attending the closed-door session, poured their anguish into letters and home videos, reminding the parole board of the boy they'd lost. In one video, Derrick's voice rang out, "Come on, Daddy, I got one," as he reeled in his first fish. The board denied parole, but the reprieve was temporary. Hearings followed in 2004, 2006, 2008, 2010, 2012, 2014, 2016, 2018, and 2020, each one a fresh wound. Every 2 years felt like every 10 minutes, Dale said. It's like losing him all over again. Eric's statements at these hearings were deeply unsettling. In 2004, he told the board that strangling Derrick gave me a good feeling at the moment. He admitted that, had he not been caught, he probably would have done it again. The words confirmed Tunney's worst fears. "I believed then, and I believe now, that Eric was a budding serial killer," he said. He got a thrill from it. It made him feel powerful. The Robys lived in constant fear of Eric's release. "It upsets me that we have to beg to keep this killer behind bars," Doreen said. The hearings, often scheduled around Christmas, cast a shadow over their holidays. "We'd be putting up the tree," Dale recalled, and then the letter would come, saying we had to fight again. Their pain was compounded by the knowledge that Derrick's memory was being overshadowed by Eric's infamy. "He was our boy," Doreen said. "A wonderful child. And we miss him terribly." The evolution of Eric Smith. As the years passed, Eric's narrative began to shift. Incarcerated first in juvenile facilities and later in adult prisons, he faced the harsh realities of life behind bars. Yet he also engaged in rehabilitation efforts, completing educational programs and vocational training in electrical work and carpentry. By 2009, at age 29, he began to express remorse in interviews and parole hearings. "I'm not the same person," he told Wayne TV. "I killed Derrick, and the pain I caused. I'm sorry." He claimed his anger was misdirected, a product of years of bullying. "When I was killing Derrick, I saw the guys who picked on me in my head." Clinical forensic psychologist Joni Johnston, who reviewed Eric's case for 48 hours, noted a gradual change. "By 2010, you start to see some compassion for others," she said. Eric spoke of wanting to make amends, of understanding the Robys' pain. In 2014, he earned a college degree, and by 2021, he was engaged to a woman studying law, who had initially written to him about the juvenile justice system. "He's got goals, a low-risk assessment," Johnston observed. "He's done everything asked of him in prison." But Johnston cautioned that remorse is notoriously difficult to evaluate. "There's no psychological test, no behavioral indicator that guarantees it's genuine," she said. Eric's chilling admissions in earlier hearings, particularly his enjoyment of the act, lingered in the minds of the parole board and the Robys. Was he truly reformed, or had he learned to craft a narrative to secure his freedom? "It's a balancing act," Johnston said. "The board has to weigh his progress against the gravity of his crime." Eric's prison record was not flawless. In 2006, he was disciplined for an altercation with another inmate, though he claimed it was self-defense. By 2018, however, his disciplinary infractions had dwindled, and risk assessments consistently rated him as low risk for reoffending. He spoke of plans to live quietly, perhaps working as a counselor for bullied children, drawing on his own experiences. "I can live in society and function as any normal individual," he told the board in 2020, a statement that struck some as chillingly optimistic. A controversial release. On October 5, 2021, after 28 years behind bars, the parole board delivered a stunning decision. Eric Smith, now 41, was granted parole. The ruling was based on his clean disciplinary record, extensive program participation, and a detailed release plan that included housing, employment prospects, and continued therapy. Dale Roby was at work when he received the call. He dialed Doreen, and they met on their porch, clinging to each other in a mix of grief and resignation. "I have sympathy for the people who made that decision," Dale said. "It's a huge gamble, but I hope they're right." The news sent shockwaves through Savona. Weeks later, dozens gathered in the village square to protest Eric's release, holding signs that read, "Justice for Derrick." They feared he might return to live with his mother, Tammy, a prospect that filled them with dread. "I wasn't worried for us," Doreen said, "but for everyone else in town. They don't want him here." The parole board, sensitive to the community's concerns, delayed Eric's release until suitable housing was secured in Queens, New York, over 200 miles from Savona. On February 1, 2022, Eric Smith walked out of Woodbourne Correctional Facility, slipping away quietly to avoid media scrutiny. Now a free man, he vanished from public view, leaving behind a community still grappling with his crime. For the Robys, the release was a bittersweet milestone. "He's been set free," Doreen said. "But in a way, so have we. No more parole hearings. The true healing can begin." Healing, for the Robys, meant letting go of the anger that had consumed them. "I'd rather laugh than cry any day," Doreen said. "If you let the anger eat you, it'll destroy you." They focused on their surviving son, Dalton, now 30, and on preserving Derrick's memory. Every August 2nd, the anniversary of his death, they seek out vanilla ice cream with sprinkles, Derrick's favorite, which he called white ice cream, turning a day of sorrow into one of bittersweet celebration. A community's resolve. Savona, too, found ways to honor Derrick. In the months following his death, volunteers, including, poignantly, Eric Smith's great-grandfather, bulldozed the wooded site of the murder, transforming it into a new ball field dedicated to Derrick's love of t-ball. A statue of the boy, sculpted by Doreen's uncle and funded by donations from across the country, was erected on a hill overlooking the field. The inscription read, "Derrick J. Roby, a gentle reminder of what childhood is meant to be." "He was the mayor of Savona," Doreen said with a wistful smile. "At 4 years and 10 months, he was known by everyone. He was so much fun, just a great kid." The statue became a touchstone for the village, a symbol of resilience in the face of unspeakable loss. Annual vigils and t-ball tournaments kept Derrick's spirit alive, ensuring his legacy endured even as Eric's release reopened old wounds. The case also sparked broader conversations about juvenile justice. Eric's trial, one of the first in New York to try a child as an adult for murder, raised questions about accountability and rehabilitation. Advocates for reform argued that children, even those who commit horrific crimes, have a capacity for change that deserves consideration. Critics, including Tunney, countered that some acts are so egregious that public safety must take precedence. Eric Smith at 13 was a danger, Tunney said. The question is whether he's still a danger at 41. Eric Smith's whereabouts since his release remain largely unknown. In a 2009 interview, he spoke of aspirations to marry, raise a family, and pursue the American dream. He expressed a desire to counsel children who, like him, had been bullied, using his past to guide others. Whether he can fulfill these ambitions, or whether he'll become a cautionary tale of a system that misjudged, remains an open question. "Time will tell," Joni Johnston said. "It's a high-risk enterprise, no doubt." For the Robys, life has moved forward, anchored by love and a determination to find joy. They cherish their time with Dalton, their friends, and their extended family, refusing to let Eric Smith define their story. "You have to enjoy each other," Doreen said. "Life is too short." Yet in the quiet moments, Derrick's absence is a constant ache. They carry his memory in every laugh, every game of catch, every scoop of ice cream with sprinkles. In Savona, Derrick's statue stands as a beacon of hope and a reminder of a boy whose light no killer could extinguish. His story, and the saga of those he left behind, is a testament to the enduring power of love, the complexity of justice, and the fragile beauty of a childhood cut short.